Welcome, everyone. My name is Vanessa George Perry. I am a GMS board member and advisor on the newly created Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. The Guild of Music Supervisors is a 501 nonprofit organization, and we're all volunteer member-driven organization. The Guild is an educational and professional resource for music supervisors and those working in related fields. We would love more folks to join up and sign up as a friend of the Guild or any member level. Please check us out on our website. Also, a reminder that we're kicking off a fall panel series with a salute to our Emmy nominees, sponsored by Netflix, Amazon, AMC, and HBO. The email will be coming shortly if you're a member. Also, don't forget, there's a town hall happy hour on Friday the 28th featuring Dan Auerbach's new artist, Early James. I want to welcome you today to our summer panel series, Allyship in Action, Roundtable with BIPOC and allies in music supervision. Please welcome Kelsey Mitchell. She's a music supervisor and also the chair of our DEI committee. She will be our facilitator today. Kelsey, take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I just wanted to start off by saying nobody on this panel is an expert or an educator when it comes to allyship and when it comes to race theory. If this is something that you're interested in doing the work and reading up, I would recommend scholars and authors. I'm including a Google link in the chat, which has a very comprehensive list of books to start reading. It doesn't include quotes. I would also include quotes. So I'd recommend checking that out. It's a really good comprehensive list. I'd also like to say that all the views and opinions here do not reflect that of the Guild of Music Supervisors. And I'd also like to thank What Up Pitches for some of their question suggestions. We got those all in the mix here, so I want to say thank you for that. So let's go ahead and get started with panelist introductions. I'll start with who I see on the screen. Let's start with Janet.
Hello, thank you for inviting me onto this. I'm excited to be here in front of you all discussing a really important time in our world and in our work. My name is Janet Lopez. I am a music supervisor at Neophonic. I've been here for going on, I think, 14 years this year. And I work on various projects, films and series, a lot of HBO work as well. And currently I'm doing Avenue 5 for HBO. We just finished Utopia, which will be coming out this fall on Amazon. Also Twilight Zone for CBS All Access. Fort Salem, Motherland, Fort Salem, on Freeform, which is great, and is also coming back for a season 2. Diary of a Future President, which I'm very proud to be a part of, for CBS Disney Plus, and also had the honor of working on Party of 5 recently.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Alec.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? So amazing to see you all in these kinds of numbers. Thank you so much to the Guild for bringing us all together. I've been really looking forward to this. So I'm Alec Stern. I am the director of music at the ad agency DDB out of Chicago. In-house music supervisor, music producer, working on brands such as Miller Lite, Coors Light, the U.S. Army, Skittles, McDonald's, things like that. And really psyched for all of this today.
Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jess. Thanks for having me today to talk about a very important topic dear to my heart. And I work at Condé Nast Entertainment, so that's like Vogue, GQ, Vanity Fair, Pitchfork, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. I can't name them all, but I oversee all things music for our digital videos. So we just did a bunch of live stream events in lieu of the pandemic world, where we did a virtual prom with Teen Vogue. Them magazine did a big Pride event called Out Now, which was super special to all of us. And we did a live stream event for the Met Gala, since the Met Gala didn't happen with Vogue. And the list goes on. And so we have a few more things coming that I'm not allowed to talk about yet. But yeah, so that's what's happening in my world.
Awesome. Let's jump to Matthew.
Everyone, happy to be here. This is really, really cool. My name is Matthew Head. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I am currently in Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised. I'm a film composer and music producer. I work very closely with Lionsgate Television. Worked on projects, did 2 seasons of Greenleaf, doing a couple seasons of Step Up, High Water, just finished doing Peak Valley. I got some other things that I can't really speak about yet, but really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Allison?
Hey, everybody. I'm Allison Wright Clark, music supervisor, music producer for All Media. I've been doing things for a long time, but it's really great to be here today and see all of you. I just wrapped up the new remake of The Comeback Trail, is George Gallo's movie with Robert De Niro, Tommy Lee Jones, Emile Hirsch, Zach Braff. Got a lot of things coming up for the fall, video game, TV related. So I'm really glad we're all here today to have this conversation. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Let's jump over to Manish.
Hey, this is my name is Manish from Aperture Music. I co-founded the company with my partner Tom Wolfe about over 20 years ago now. I'm a music supervisor and music editor, and we do films and television. And we just wrapped up The Boys season 2, which will come out next month. And we have we're just starting on This Is Us season 5, and we have a couple of movies in post right now, and a bunch of other good stuff coming once we're ready to start shooting. So, and happy to be here, and thanks to Guild for asking me to participate. Thank you.
And then last up, we have Brian.
Hey, what's happening, friends? My name is Brian Vickers. I work as a music supervisor for Disney's in-house trailer team, The Hive. We specifically work on all theatrical marketing things, the trailers that you guys probably have seen, hopefully. Stuff ranging from Star Wars to, all the Avengers stuff. Now we're working on some cool Fox projects, working on New Mutants. Anyway, tons of stuff. Shout out to the Guild. Definitely glad to be here and take part in what I think is a very important conversation. And I hope we can do some cool things today.
Awesome. Thank you guys all for being here. I'll do one more question before we start getting into the nitty-gritty. Let's go with, how did you guys get started in this industry, and what has been the biggest challenge in your career? And whoever feels like answering, this is by no means a mandatory question, but if you want to just kind of shed some light on that for the attendees. Anybody?
I mean, I'll go.
Great, thank you.
I got started like this. This is what my path looks like. I didn't really know that music supervision was a job, so I actually started off studying music editing. Similar to Manish. And so I studied production, and I did audio production editing and video editing and music editing until I realized music supervision was what I actually wanted to do. And so I kind of just tested the waters. I did a ton of internships from all different types of companies to figure out really what I wanted to do and where my heart was. And I always got drawn back to music licensing and putting music to picture, or I like to call it painting pictures with music. That's kind of really how I did it. And it was just taking a leap of faith, moving across the country with 2 suitcases and living on my friend's floor on an air mattress and hoping it all worked out. And it did, So yeah, that's my little quick roundabout story.
I'll hop on this one. I grew up in music, but on the performance side, you know, my parents threw me in the church choir, kids choir, when I was like 5 or something. And if you ask them, like, just like if you ask any old Black parent when their kids started singing, they're going to say some arbitrary number that's probably not true. Oh yeah, he was singing when he was like 2, 1, whatever. But I did start singing early and just developed the love of music that way. Went to college and just kept doing music. But when I moved out here, I got to LA in 2008, and I had no idea what the move was. But fortunately, I got an internship through my old college, Full Sail. And yeah, man, I worked as an intern and literally had to learn everything on the job because it was such a different mentality coming from the performance side. So yeah, just kind of kept pushing from there, and just met so many great people who were able to show me, like, oh, do this, don't do that, go here, don't go there, all that jazz. So yeah.
Why not? So I had wanted to be a music supervisor before I knew what it was. Similar to Jessica, I think I just sort of dreamed that one day I could find songs to put into picture. But I honestly had no idea that this was a job. I was very young when I had an interest in this work. I was under 10. So, and I'm a young Mexican girl from East LA. So I had no one that I knew in the entertainment industry, let alone on the West Side or Hollywood. So it just felt impossible. And then I became, just grew up a little bit, went to school, and decided to see if I can take myself more seriously and my own ambitions more seriously. And so I did. And I decided to find out what the hell this was. What is this a job? I mean, music has to come from somewhere on these films and on these television shows. So I just became completely obsessed with trying to find out if this was a position, a job somewhere. And I found out it was called music supervision. And once I did, then it was just sort of like laser tunnel vision. I needed to get, I wanted to achieve this goal. And I found the more I found out about it, the more I found this is like a dream come true for me personally. I love the work that we do, and I admire a lot of the people that I work with. And so I had, I think, kind of like heroes in our field at that time. And one of them was PJ Bloom, still one of them, and and others that I think just really kind of made this feel like it could be a reality. And I too interned, and I studied, and I worked at a record store, and I busted my ass. And then I became a music supervisor.
Awesome. Go ahead. I think you can unmute yourself.
I too came to music supervision via an internship. Similar to Brian, I came from the music side. I was a musician, and actually what inspired me to seek an internship was because I just assumed I was on the path to becoming a rock star. So I thought it best to be smart and try to intern at a record company. And, so when I send my demo tape there, I know the process and I know what goes on behind the scenes. So I remember in college interviewing at a couple of record labels, but then on accident, I somehow had landed an interview with a music supervision company. And at the time, there was maybe 3 or 4 music supervisors in town. And I didn't realize that was a job, which was, hey, we watch movies and we listen to music and we try to match the two. And I thought, well, that sounds really cool. So I took that internship, and I was fortunate enough to be able to work under Pilar McCurry and Spring Aspers just at the beginning of my career. And that really was the launching pad for me. And I never went back. They offered me a job during my senior year of college, and I decided, well, I should probably take this and see where this goes. And it's 20 plus years later, I'm still here without a college degree, but doing okay. So that's my story.
Wow.
Yeah, my entry into the industry was I was a beat maker. I made beats. I'm from Atlanta, so all we did was work with rappers and singers and songwriters, all that good stuff. So I was the kid with all the music equipment growing up, making beats. Music was not, being a film composer or even going into the industry wasn't a huge goal for me. I wanted to be a teacher. That was my thing. I was going to school to be a teacher, and I made music on the side. It was a really cool hobby that I would tell certain people. Went to college, and I would make my little beats, and people would like them and end up taking me to studios and say, hey, make a beat and see what happens. And I did like a little thing in Savannah, Georgia. I went to school at Savannah State University, and a song I did blew up. And all of a sudden, I have a song on the radio in Savannah. I became a little local celebrity on my college campus. Still did that, went to school, wanted to be a teacher, moved home back to Atlanta, and I made all these beats thinking I was a celebrity in my head, and no one would take them. They were all very big instrumentals and out of control, and no one would buy them, and no one would like rap on them. People would just listen to them. Then a buddy of mine, Ryan Horn from the Horn Brothers, he had a small production company, and he put all of my beats in his film. He called me one day. He said, hey, I got a film. It's a comedy. I got these beats that you gave me a long time ago. I'm going to put them in your film. I said, okay, cool. He put them in the film, and he called me back and said, hey, can you adjust the music a little bit on this? Can you make it feel a little bit more, created for the movie? I said, yeah. He had no money, no nothing. He bought me dinner. And I did that, and the bug of film composing hit me, and that was it. And that film won a couple awards, and then I ended up doing jingles for our local car dealerships in Atlanta, local news stations, and then that roller coaster into meeting a couple producers, which wind up where I'm at today. And so it was one of those things where I accidentally was pushed into film composition, and music production. So that's where I'm at.
Got it.
I can go ahead. I love hearing all the similarities between so many of us, all of the accidents, and just continuing to fall into these sorts of things. My path is not all that different. Been a musician my whole life, bands, making solo records, working on other people's music and things like that. And I very distinctly remember as a kid, I was the only semi-creative one in my family. I grew up in a very athletic household. And I distinctly remember my parents, whenever they'd watch TV and the commercials would come on, which were generally terrible at the time, they would scream my name during any bad commercial. Basically, would you do something about this? You're the only creative person in this house. You're the only creative person we know. Would you do something about this? So I think something was weirdly put in the air that I didn't even realize. But essentially, at the end of college, I very, very much stumbled my way into an internship, actually at an original music house, and then sort of weaseled my way into composing on a number of jobs, which ended up going really well. And that was kind of my introduction to this world, and interacting with writing music to picture and things like that. And I got to meet a number of people through that experience. One of which I'm sure many of you LAers know, Gabe McDonough. He was the newly hired director of music at Leo Burnett, which was another ad agency in Chicago. And basically, as soon as I met him and his partner, Chris Clark, and just kind of saw the work that they were doing, again, as with so many people have spoken, this is a job I didn't know existed until my first day on it. But just, I remember seeing some of their work and being like, how did you work with this artist? How did you get this song? How does all this work? In my mind being so blown, and just instantly knowing that this was what I wanted to do. And so I've been doing music supervision in-house at ad agencies for about 7 years. And yeah, the ability to have a career where every phone call I make during a day, an email that I send, and Zoom meeting now that I have is about music or a song or an artist is something I could have never dreamed of.
Awesome. Thank you. That leaves Allison.
Good. So like Alec, I am originally from Chicagoland and got my start in ad music with a house, in River North. And I was really lucky to start producing there. But my first job in entertainment was actually for the video game company Konami as a coordinator and learning about, producing video games. And I was really hit by the video game bug when I was young, and I just loved it. And I loved all kinds of media and film and anything. I was watching everything with a picture and what music was in it, and was kind of obsessed with it with a very early age. And music was always in the foreground of everything that I did. And all my friends, college radio, I was a part of the radio station at my high school too, which we were super lucky to have. And, when I was in Chicago, the name of the company, and I owe a lot of my career to a guy that I worked with, a music producer by the name of Ken Hale, who is still an amazing creator. And Kenny worked on a film called Normal Life. It was Ashley Judd's first film with John McNaughton directed it, and seeing that process of scoring. And I was a classical musician, but, sneaking out at night to go to shows in Chicago and just running around. So long and short, it was like I was going to find a way to do it. And, I was a language major in school, so it was really just my passion to want to learn how to do it and get connected and find a way in. And, I moved to LA, and I had some very lucky serendipitous things, but I kind of kept after it. And turns out that I started working with Hans Zimmer's team in production and working and doing literally mini film scores for ads. It was one of the greatest opportunities and things that I've ever done, and was there off and on for about 8 years before I started my own music supervision company with a music editor. All hail our music editorial community. But yeah, so, I think it's just like keeping going and knowing how music informs storytelling and how it just makes such a huge impact on how we get to the emotional depths of the work. So a lot of my career has been very focused, but also it's been a lot of just pressing through and getting opportunities when possible. And I'm just, it's great to get to do this job, and I love doing this job.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And before we move on to the next section of the panel, I wanted to explain to the attendees that we're kind of taking the role of the moderator out here. We're going to have the panelists ask each other the questions to make this a more back and forth, authentic conversation. So I'm going to be stepping out in terms of asking the questions, and the first person to be asking the questions is going to be Janet. And it actually is great because it has to do with all the internships that everyone had just brought up having. So take it away.
Hey, let's talk structural roadblocks in the sync world, such as unpaid internships, extension courses, etc., which perpetuate inequality in our field. What are some ideas or actions to change the system? I think some people are muted, so feel free to unmute. I will start us off by saying that there was a great platform that is still happening called Sync to Change, and such a wonderful wealth of information that has come from that. And there was a woman out of New York who's a music supervisor who is putting together a list to help diversify the internship programs that kind of hit our industry. And if anyone who is participating, listening right now remembers her name, she's out of New York, please feel free to email Kelsey and we'll give her proper credit here.
I guess something that I would like to see more of is having internships that aren't for school credit, because there are a lot of people and kids who don't have access to be able to go to a college that has these preset connections. And so maybe if we have more opportunities where you don't need to get credit for it, you just need a good intern, that might open some more opportunities up for everybody. And also just making them not full-time if they're not paid. You know, kids have to pay bills, like especially if we're talking about a community of under accessible job roles. I would love to see having the ability to be flexible. If you have to go to school and do an internship, with my college, we didn't do classes. We interned for 6 months and then went back to school. So it was great. I didn't have to worry about juggling both. And they were also, a lot of them were part-time, so I could still work part-time and not have to worry as much about just fully committing to an unpaid job that was full-time. So that's something that I've been thinking about a lot on my side.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of what Jessica just mentioned, I think that I agree completely. I think that when we limit internships to school credit, that eliminates a lot of people, because for a number of folks, after they graduate and move, whether it be a New York or LA or, you know, Chicago or wherever, if they're already graduated, then they're unable to take part in these internships. And but even when we're talking about roadblocks, I graduated from an HBCU. I went to Howard University in DC. And, you know, Matthew mentioned, you know, Savannah State. And I know that when it comes to a lot of these schools, these are opportunities that we never knew existed. Like only after I got my, like I would say my first job, was I able to go back and say, oh yeah, by the way, y'all, this is a thing. Oh, really? Is that, you know, like if people don't understand or know about certain opportunities, then I think that shifts the pool of talent that a lot of companies draw from. So if it's something that I wish that we could see, and I know a lot of people as of late have been making more of a push for HBCUs and to get, you know, a bigger pool, a wider, more diverse pool of students. I think that is very important, but I also think, you know, let's not limit it to the kids that, you know, that are in school. Also folks that are just, you know, whether they just graduated or they've been here a while and want to get into it, there has to be some kind of way to provide, you know, a path for them as well.
Also, one of the great things about Zoom is it makes it so much more accessible for us to get a collective together to just discuss our field and what we do, what we work on. And I think awareness is really a big key to outreach, just letting people know that this is a career path. This is a job you can have or seek if you like this or that. And I know that I personally have been asked a lot from people lately to speak on, you know, a coffee time with this college, or can you do a chat with, you know, a panel that we're curating from, you know, the certain school groups here and there. And I think that's a great step forward, as opposed to limiting it to only those who can afford college credit. Unpaid internships are somewhat limiting. I benefited from it, but I do know that I was in a position where I could, you know, afford to do it at the time. And I know that that's a limiting factor for a lot of people.
The one thing I would like to piggyback off, even what Brian said, was starting earlier than college. I made beats in high school, and no one told me what to do with those beats. You know, I was too busy trying to get to the big rap artist and to the local songwriter that I could have used that music in high school or even in middle school in film and television, or even had access to certain places. So I think educating children at teenagers at an age where they can be introduced to what is film composition, what is music supervision, like, to let them know that, so when they make the decision to go to college, they have a direction to go to. So I just feel like, I used to teach school, so I'm very big on kids. So I was a kindergarten teacher, first grade teacher, fourth grade teacher, and eighth grade administrator. So I had, before the music thing, I had 10 years of education experience. And I know with Black kids, they don't have a lot of options. And the one thing that I would teach to my children in eighth grade was I would bring my music to school. I would let them hear Mr. Head's music. Let them hear Mr. Head beats. And then I did a lot of independent films. I would show them Mr. Head's independent film, and it will open up their eyes like, wow, so I don't have to be a rapper. I don't have to be the singer. I can do this. And so teaching kids early, I think, will allow them to walk into college saying, hey, I want to be a music supervisor or a composer or do something in the entertainment field without being in the front light, on the front stage, and which will lead to better internships for them. So I just feel like if we can have a program or try to start it earlier, introduce it to them at an earlier age, where they'll know exactly, have an easier way to maneuver instead of accidentally getting into it like a lot of us have,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this shout out to Tariq Bradford and Steve Nice, because they're running a program right now where they're working with high schools to start educating them young. So it's exactly what Matthew's saying, because that's really where it starts. Is you're starting to, at a young age, being asked, what are you supposed to do with the rest of your life? And a lot of people don't know, especially children and kids and teenagers of all, So yeah, I think that's really important, is to teach young and show opportunities and just options. What's out there, what's available to you.
Right. Yeah, I think two really interesting things that connected most of us in kind of answering how we got into this field are, one, many of us had no idea that this was a job before we started doing it. And two, we got here through internships. And so on the first one, yeah, I think I'm so happy to hear there's this collective agreement that like representation is so important. It's so valuable to, at any stage of your life you're in, if you have a passion, and you see somebody in some way doing a job that you didn't know existed, creating a career, creating a life that reflects your passion, that can change a single life, that can change multiple lives. And so even things like this, I've loved being a part of this community because there are so many like-minded folks who believe in that principle and feel so lucky to be able to do what we're doing, and are like, I want everyone to know that this is a thing. Because if I had me at a younger age, like, I got lucky and fell into this, but maybe if I hadn't, what a tragedy that would have been. So yeah, I love being part of this community that seems to really value that. Outreach, making ourselves available, spreading the gospel of this whole thing is fantastic. And then with internships, I think that, we're all busy people. And I think that when it comes to like a summer intern, there's this propensity to treat it as like, I just need another pair of hands to help admin, to help answer emails, whatever it is. And I think that's taking this industry, which is an inherently creative industry, and sort of looking at it almost through the lens of like an old kind of union kind of job, where it's like, doesn't matter who you are, as long as you got a pair of good working hands, like, you can get the job done. And clearly for so many of us who have made our way here through internships, and clearly this is a community that really values diversity and sees strength in that. Placing a focus on that as like one of our criteria when we are getting interns, going to places that, maybe aren't the typical route or whatever it is, HBCUs, high schools, a number of those things. Like, I'm so glad to hear such an emphasis in the conversation on internships and how valuable it can be to opening the doorway to something like this.
Absolutely. And speaking on diversity in our field, why don't you jump on your question, Alec, the next one?
Perfect. So my question has to do with anytime any of us we're working on a project that has to do with tapping into a specific kind of cultural background that maybe is not your background. Do you find that it's beneficial to have people on your teams who represent that background? Have you had success with bringing on a consultant who can help in that regard? I'd love to kind of hear how you guys handle and get the most out of those kind of projects.
I mean, I'll go. I usually go outside. I don't like pretending like I know about a culture. Sorry, I have dogs here if you can hear them. I don't like pretending like I'm an expert in something that I don't know much about when there are other people out there who live and breathe something that I'm not a part of, or I haven't been able to learn more fully and be more eloquent about whatever area of that project we're working on. And so I will go out, even if I'm not allowed to officially through the production I'm working on. I have brought in my friends and colleagues who are better equipped to handle that task. And I have helped that. I've paid them to under my own, just for myself as me saying, can I offer this to you? Because I also don't like making people do things for free. I love favors and I will always help out whenever anyone asks, but I also think it's very important to pay people for the work they're doing. It's very important. So I think it's very important to go outside of the box when we're talking about diversity. I'm not going to pretend like I know about issues that I didn't have. I have grown up with a privilege, and so if we're doing a project about it, I'm not going to be the expert there. I hope more people do.
I really agree with what you're saying, Jess, because, there's so much that we're constantly dealing with as supervisors and having people that are really, really knowledgeable about certain areas. And I think, again, it's like music has to be really authentic to whatever it is. And if you're pulling away from that and you don't have a voice in that and it's not your world, you should be consulting with the people and trusted resources in order to bring that in. And I just wanted to mention that there have been a couple of projects that have actually referred other people to Straight Out that were the better choice. And I said, I will help, I will co-work it, whatever needs to happen. But again, for really just the best storytelling, you've got to have the right voices, the people that really know it. And I think that is absolutely what's got to happen and continue to happen. So
I 100% agree with you, Allison and Jessica. I feel like, having there be a cultural understanding, a deep understanding of what that show, whatever it is that you're working on requires, if you're being honest with yourself, it's okay to admit that you just don't know everything. And the way even a film composer might be able to write a beautiful score, if there's an instrument that he or she or he is not familiar with, then there is a featured player that comes in and handles that part of it. And so if there's any kind of collaboration that can happen to really improve the cultural awareness of a project, great. And if it's just not your background, then I think there's no shame in admitting that. We all have to pay our bills. So I don't want to ever turn away work, but you have to be true to what you're doing at the same time.
Yeah.
I think it also just helps shine a spotlight on somebody who might not be getting as much attention as you. If they do have this more niche experience, maybe they didn't have the same outlets as I did. So then my entire team knows who they are. And then they'll go to them the next time around. And I hope it just helps, like, you should work with this person, you work with this person. And honestly, I think that's probably one of my favorite things about our industry in general is just how communal we are. And I think that we can use that to our advantage to help diversify our industry more.
And this actually also helps answer part of the structural roadblocks question that started us off, opening the door and allowing others in.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it is. It's a diversity issue, guys. I think that when you're working on things that you're not familiar with, it becomes so easy because it's your job to learn it. It's your job to research these things. But even in all the research, I think that when you have someone from a background that is more familiar with it, it's just a different level of connection to the material. Like I know I've seen projects where I grew up with these things and I know emotionally how I feel and the place that I can go to because there's just a different level of connection. But I think that if your team is lacking, those voices, then this is, like you guys mentioned, this is how those roadblocks happen. So really, it's more a point of diversity and it's more a point of, like we've already kind of emphasized, you have to have people in the room that have the voices of this material. And, I'm not even talking about like the super niche specific things. I'm talking just, grand scale things. Like it benefits any team to have the widest variety of voices possible. And I know as it relates to our industry specifically, that is something I think that we really have to work harder at. And we have to be better collectively about making sure that you can look around a room and see more than one shade, all right, more than one gender, the whole thing. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a composer, that's part of my job. One thing that I play piano, and that's it. I don't play drums. I don't play guitar. I don't play bass. I play piano. So when I get the shows and work on the shows that I work on, as a composer, I'm supposed to make diverse and a whole bunch of different types of music. There's some times where I have to go hire a lot of people to do a lot of things, or I can hire one person, or I can do it myself. I'm very spiritual with my blessings, so I'm the kind of guy that I like to pass my blessing on. So I'm very big on, if I have an opportunity, I'm calling the next man up to help me with this opportunity. Especially if you've been with me for a while, if you've seen me grow, and I know you can sing, I'm going to call you to come sing. I'm going to call you to play keys. I play piano, and I never forget, I was in the studio working on a project, and someone says, why you hire somebody, but you play piano yourself? And I was working on a gospel project, and I said, well, he plays in the church every day. This guy goes up, he is a church musician, he plays every day. I play once or twice a month, but he plays every day at a church. So why wouldn't I hire him to do it? So I just think that, having a team is great, but also passing the blessing on to those who need it and who would benefit off of it, to me is like a huge thing that I think we forget sometimes. And I think we get so focused on our personal careers and what we're trying to do personally that we really forget that we're going to get that phone call back if we do the job. I've received so many opportunities by me just finishing the job, and I needed that person or that people behind me to help me. And they've benefited from it, and they've run and do other things off of what I've done. So I just think that passing the buck is very important, and it will open up the doors a lot easier for yourself personally, career-wise, and for others around you.
Also to add, just from firsthand experience, many years ago, there was an NBC primetime sitcom that we did that took place in India, and we music supervised it. And what I was able to call on was just a lifetime of hearing Indian music in my house from my parents. And you kind of don't realize the effect that kind of stuff has on you when you suddenly get on a project as niche as something like this, where it just takes place in India and all the source music is going to be Indian, Bollywood. And I just found myself really being the only one in the room that could speak to this authentically. And granted, born and raised in California, so I still had some type of life and family experience that was able to contribute. And it's something that doesn't necessarily always read on paper or on my credits or on my resume. And it's going to be the same with people you meet. You just don't know who people's backgrounds. You just don't know their life experience. And sometimes if you have a project such as this that's so specifically niche and cultural, you can benefit from someone who does share that culture. I think you just can't go wrong with that, as opposed to trying to research and trying to which I've done also, where I've just tried to do the job by research, and it's a very different experience when you compare the two.
Mm-hmm. You can't fake authenticity.
No.
So yeah, you're right.
And on that, Brian, did you want to go ahead and take off with your question? Oh, wait. Brian,
You're muted.
out.
Oh, just kidding. We hear me? All right, cool. Just kidding. All right, friends. As you guys know, the subject today that we're focusing on is about allyship and activism as well. And in light of everything that's currently going on, we're seeing activism on a large stage in a number of different areas, whether that is political, or we're seeing it just in a number of different arenas. I want to ask the panel, what does allyship look like to you? What does that look like? And also, what steps can we take to ensure that allyship has a lasting impact and that it's not just performative? And I specifically want us to look at that within our sync community.
Well, I had just a recent experience with allyship on a show. So Party of Five was set in LA, and it was a show about a young Mexican-American family who was partly born in Los Angeles and partly born in Mexico. And through the sort of like the plot of the series, this family was separated and their parents were deported. And so calling back to the original Party of Five, instead of going through grief, they were going through grief in this way of having to be literally pulled away from, the parental figures of their family and trying to survive on their own. And in this world that we are in, I mean, Party of Five was very topical, very appropriate for the time we're in. And as part of the plot of the show, activism was a big point. And we had a scene where we had sort of raising awareness, and they were trying to put together a charity event. And we were trying to find the right kind of band to play in the background to really kind of amplify this and have it be, real. Now, they weren't going to be writing the episode around the band. The band was just going to be there. They were going to focus on them for a bit, but then they were going to tell the rest of the episode. So we could have done it a lot of ways. We could have cast sideline musicians who, play backwards and then we're done. Or we could have just done, a simple, everyone looks the part, and you have a great song and it's all about the song and you're rarely on them. We didn't decide on any of those options. We really, they trusted me, and we went for a totally authentic band from East LA, and they're called Las Cafeteras, who kick major ass. They're very good. And they are social activists. They write their music about that. They're bilingual. Some of them do come from, this kind of struggle where some of their families have, been deported or they come from another country, but all of their heart and soul goes into their music and all of their heart and soul went into this performance. And we were only on them for I think in the final cut, maybe 20 seconds in the background, right? But it was a real band playing their own song about this kind of cause for this sort of purpose, for this sort of show. And forgive me if I'm just going on about Party 5 for a minute, but it was what your question is about, or what this topic is about. It's about allyship. It was about true activism. And it was about keeping it real and employing someone to do this job, not to look the part, but to be who they are. And it was amazing. It was amazing being on that set too.
I think on my end, I know Brian and I have probably received a lot of emails the last 2 or 3 months with all the messes going on in our world.
Yep.
And the biggest thing I tell everyone that I speak to, I think a lot of people confuse the word between empathy and sympathy. I do not want anyone feeling sorry for me. Don't feel sorry for Matt Head. Matt, and we are good. But I need you to empathize with Matt Head and understand what I've come from and what I'm going through and what my children will go through. Even as a musician, as a composer, in this industry, empathize with me that you don't see a lot of Black composers. You don't see a lot of Black music supervisors that are having the opportunities to get these major projects and these shows. And I'm one of them that have stumbled into this situation and I think with that, if we use a little bit more empathy and understanding of who we are and understanding each other and understand that I am Black and see my color and see my race and see where I come from, I think it will lend on better allies. I don't like the phrase, I don't see color. No, I need you to see my color. I need you to see who I am because I need you to know that I will go through something that you will probably never go through. So if you see my color, you can be my ally and you can empathize for me and you will automatically know how I would feel because you can say, well, I have a friend that does this. I know all of us has Facebook and we see our Facebook feeds kind of go left and right all day. One day I'm going to delete Facebook. But I've seen people in the industry that are just not empathetic and I will call them out. Like, hey, remember 5 years ago, you were an intern? Remember 10 years ago, you was doing this or you were working, I think our biggest roadblock to me is for us to understanding the key word of empathy, not sympathy. Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. I need you to empathize with me and empathize with each other so we can make real change and not play for the team that we are assigned to, either that's Democrat, Republic, white, Black, boy, girl. I feel like if we just empathize with each other, a lot of that team stuff will kind of go away and we will understand how to become better allies for each other instead of just playing and rooting for the team that our grandfathers and fathers and mothers root for. So I just want to put that word out there a lot more. Just if we can just empathize a little bit and understand each other just a little bit more, instead of trying to, fight the battle. No, empathize. So if you empathize, you will change automatically what you're doing every day. So,
Yes. I love everything you're saying today. I want, from my point of view as a white woman, for me, being a good ally, I've been asking myself uncomfortable questions and asking the people around me uncomfortable questions. And I think to the point of empathy, we also need to be good listeners. There's a lot of combative conversations happening, but I think we need to stop yelling at each other and being angry and maybe start listening and asking yourself, but others, uncomfortable questions. Why do you feel this way? Why is that your opinion? What music are you listening to? Look at your top list on Spotify. What artists are you listening to? Who's in the room with you? Who are in your, all these uncomfortable questions, because as soon as you become more aware, that's when you can start making a change to know how you are making the problem better or worse. Like, are you actually an ally? Are you doing things to make lasting change, or are you kind of just sitting on the sidelines and watching the conversation pass you? So that's in my world, that's something I've been trying to do as myself, trying to be a better listener and figuring out what I have access to make lasting change. Because I also hate Facebook, and I am very upset about like the social aspect. We're sharing a lot of information, but a lot of it feels very, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's entertainment.
Yeah. Like, are you following through? Okay, you posted a black square on Instagram, but what else did you do that day? What did you do to do anything else? Are you continuously doing? It's not one time. It's like an ongoing problem to change. We're breaking down centuries of systematic racism. So you can't just do, it's not one action. It's consistent action.
I mean, I have a friend that I watch post things on Facebook, and it upsets me because I think it's more entertainment for them. And it's become more divisive. And it's getting divisive. And so I'm like, I am this close to calling them out, but I'm trying not to because I'm trying to not focus on that. But I think the issue what we're having right now is that what's going on in the world has become entertaining because we're in our houses. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. So we're watching our Facebooks. We're watching our phones. We're watching television. And we're seeing a lot of things happen every night, every day. And we wake up and see more things happen. And now it's become our reality television, and it's pure entertainment. And so what's happening, that entertainment is starting to feed into our worlds, and we're very divisive. And we're divisive, and we don't even know that we're divisive. Like, we have friends that we grew up with and that we were best friends with that could have been white, Hispanic, whatever, but now we are just divided as adults. And I just don't understand. I had to call one of my old friends that I was like, hey, remember we played football together? Yeah, right. You're right, Matt. We did play football together. And so I just think that we have to, if we see something that's not right or not feeling the way it needs to feel, I think we should cut it off and move on. And understand that we have to empathize and listen way more than we're showing, and not feed into the entertainment side of it and being divisive for no reason. I think it's kind of just pointless.
Yeah. To answer my own question, I agree completely with what everyone has said already. I think that when we look at allyship, I do believe that there is a right and wrong way to do it. I think that, a lot of everything that's going on right now, it's great to see there being such a focus on, Black everything. I'm a big sports guy. I love watching the NBA. Oh, wow, they put Black Lives Matter on the court and the players have jerseys that say these things. But when we talk about performance, activism, I think that like Matthew really said, it really starts with empathy. There's such a mentality that has to be behind what it is that you're doing. And shout out to everybody who are doing things like educating themselves. Like, I'm reading how to be an anti-racist. Oh, cool. I'm just talking to more Black people that I know. Like, all of those things do matter. But, as I posted, Janet, I know you mentioned, sync to change earlier. I mentioned that because I was on that call as well. And after it happened, my first response was, I just want to make sure that when I contact all of my Black friends who are composers, who are supervisors, who are publishers, who do anything in the world of sync, that they should see an uptick. That's how I know that everything that we're doing right now matters. All the panels matter. The change is beginning to actually happen. I want to know not just, what the numbers look like. Like, if I talk to them in December, I want them to say, wow, I've had the best year that I've had on record, or I'm getting so many new clients, or I'm getting so much more work. And not just December. I'm talking when we're in March 2021, we're in December 2022. Like, it should not be a temporary thing, because to be super honest, I think that there's a strong contingency of people that feel like this is hot right now. This is hot. Hey, Black Lives Matter. Like, it's a hot thing. And I get that. But like Matthew said, empathy means that this is your mentality. And the cool part is, it's not exclusive to one group. It's not exclusive to, just white people. Like, I'm a man. I am a Black man, but I am a man nonetheless. But I have a Black wife and I have a Black daughter who I care so much about, both of them. And I want to make sure that whatever I do, I have to make room for them. Their fights are my fights. And it goes that way for everyone. Like if everyone were to embody that, it's almost like what Cat Williams said in this ad that they just, if you guys haven't seen it, Supreme did this commercial thing and it is amazing. But Cat Williams said, like, you know, yeah, more white people should say Black Lives Matter, because when y'all say it, things will start to change. So it's not like to point fingers or anything. Don't take that out of context, but it is to say that there have to be multiple sides to attack such a humongous problem.
Thanks.
Sorry. I just wanted to drop in too, speaking of Sync to Change, they're doing a diversity report. I'm trying to find the link in my emails to put in the chat for you, but I am very excited to see the results of just how undiverse our industry is. So I'm going to put the link in the chat, so try to find it if it doesn't go through. I think it's very important that everyone in the Sync world submits to this to really get an idea of how unequal our industry is.
Thank you. Manish, did you want to go ahead and do your question next?
Yes. My question: where does everyone look for emerging voices in the industry, and what would we like to see more of in the industry?
I mean, I think sure, I'll hop on that one. I can. It's a piggyback on the last question. Honestly, I think that it really just depends on where you're looking and how you approach whatever the project may be, your clients, you know, the people who work within your company. I think that I would say that I have a little bit of an advantage in being a Black creative. Because I know that with me, it's not always a business thing. It's just, hey, I have friends who make beats, or I have friends who do supervision, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it just really depends. But the only answer that I can give to that is, well, that I personally can give to that is just, you know, be sure that you're not just drawing from one source. You know, like there are organizations that are very specific, but, you know, throw a wide net.
Yeah, I'm a first generation American. My family's from Italy, southern Italy. So I try to make it a point to look everywhere, like on the global scale, for new emerging artists in music. I love meeting different people from different industries. We all say we can't take unsolicited music, but I pay attention to it. But for me, I'm like, I like listening to new music. I love listening to music that I didn't grow up listening to. I love listening to stuff that is not prominent in the US, at least, different flares, because it for me feels good to listen to something different. And I think it's fun to be able to show other artists that might not get as much spotlight in the US, at least. Because we are a big driving force in the creative space, I have to say. I think, I don't know if that's true, but it seems like a lot of people overseas listen to a lot of music based here, and I'd like to showcase some more artists elsewhere too. That's just
as far as the part of the question about what we'd like to see more of in the industry, I think that kind of points to the heart of what this panel is, and I think just from not so much the finding music for the projects, but just from behind the scenes as music supervisors, more diversity is key. And I think just from the experiences that we're sharing of just being in the room, and I can speak as a music editor, when I'm in editing rooms for 7 to 8 hours a day. It's a very not diverse environment when you compare it to music supervision. Music supervision is a relatively newer newer genre of within the film crew. So I think we have the benefit of not necessarily beginning with this kind of old boys club mentality. But we are at the point where it would be great to move forward. And I think, and also piggybacking on the last question about allyship and all the calls that we've all heard for it lately, it would be great to get the support from the people, and speaking from an independent music supervision company, to receive the benefit from those that pay us, which is the studios and the networks, and to realize that, as a music supervisor, I want to hire people, but I can't hire people if the rates I'm being paid are the same as they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. This is probably a different panel that should happen, but it ties into this. It ties into why, or a potential reason why people can't be hired. And I know I've struggled with it. I've struggled with not being able to hire someone that I've wanted to hire just because the economics suck. And that is something that hopefully those that are considered our allies who have been very vocal lately will step up, understand that this is a part of the conversation, that diversity and economics go hand in hand.
I actually think that it does all have to do with the unpaid internships and relative to allyship. I think that it all comes from the same place. We did get an audience question that said, what do we have to do in order to make internships paid? And that's kind of what you were just saying, right? It needs to come from the people holding the purse strings. They need to pay you more.
Yeah, I mean, just the generalized version of it is I'm working for less money now than I did 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So, and I'm working harder on the jobs, and we're working longer hours for less money. Therefore, from just a pure economic level, how do I expand my company? How do I hire someone? How do I give this opportunity to someone that deserves it? It's out of my control. And that's the part that I'm hoping could be part of the conversation moving forward, especially now that I feel like people are willing to listen. And it's not a blaming thing. I think it's just, I don't know if that's ever really been talked about when comparing the two. I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah,
sorry, Alec, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, like in my own line of work with ads, like something that I battle with on a relatively constant basis is, like, for example, I think that there is a massive hip hop problem in advertising. I think it is an industry that just does not understand the genre and doesn't utilize it with the same sort of level of artistry that it affords most other genres. And you can't ignore that hip hop is a Black artist genre. And the reason, at least in my perspective, sort of for that, it's a lot of sort of bits of what people have been saying, but it's like, advertising is generally speaking for products marketed generally toward a white majority from clients who have senior leadership that is white, ads that are created by an ad agency that generally speaking senior leadership is white, created by creatives who generally speaking happen to be white. And so anytime something like hip hop is utilized, which there's no denying that has been the most dominant genre for a number of decades at this point, anytime it's utilized by that sort of chain of command, like something's off about it. And like, I know I have seen many times where it's used as like a punchline in a weird way, or, whatever it is. So I think that all of that is sort of to say, I very much a believer that there's not so much of a distinction between like being an activist on your own and the person that you bring to the workplace necessarily. Like bringing that education, bringing that insight, certainly Matthew bringing that empathy 100%. So often it's just that one voice in the room who has that empathy in that chain of command that can make a massive difference. And, you see, it happens like once, maybe twice a year, but like an ad comes out and it causes the entire country to collectively, throw their palm into their forehead. Like, how did no one catch this? How did nobody think that this was a problem? And it's because there's not that, single or greater voice who is either, has the connection to the subject matter that would have prevented it, or has the empathy and knowledge and insights that, or frankly, the bravery necessarily in this chain of command to say something. So yeah, I mean, that's somewhat of a specific point, but I think, there's certainly ways to be an activist and an ally, sort of behind the scenes, hiring, certainly, diversifying the talent that you utilize, diversifying your team, all these sorts of things. And then there's also being an ally and an activist in essentially what's in front of the camera, what the audience is seeing. And I think the more people that can bring that sense of themselves to it, I think that just the entire industry in terms of what people are seeing is just going to become that much stronger and more authentic.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback with what Alex said about bravery, I think that's a big thing, because being an activist or being an ally, you got to be brave and go against exactly what you were taught or you think you should be doing. I like to say, what I like to do is use more purpose with stuff as far as finding voices. So I worked on the show, P-Valley, with Katori Hall, the showrunner. She was like, I need a Black person, I need a Black leading female for this song. And I'm going to find a Black female, rapper. And she made it a point where she made it out loud. She told me, she told the new supervisors, we're going to find a Black female to sing, rap the title sequence. And she made it purposeful. I don't want the big star. I want the one that no one knows about, or the emerging star. Such as, I know projects where, shout out to Amanda Jones, a friend of mine. She is a huge composer, blowing up, Emmy winning, doing the thing. And I know that one of her jobs is she helped start the Composer Diversity Collective, and I'm a part of that. And we are Black composers, female composer, Hispanic composers. We're very diverse, but I would need music supervisors and directors and producers to go and say, if we have a Black story, let's find a Black composer to help tell this story. And I think being purposeful in saying that out loud and understanding that's what that's being brave to do that. I think we're too political that we don't want to say the right thing. I think we're just saying what we should be saying and throw out really hidden messages, but knowing we need something else. So I just want to say, let's be more brave about it and say, I need a Latino band, just like what Janet said. I need this instead of just trying to piece it together. I think that's where you find your voices, and you'll find those hidden talents, and you also will diversify the industry a lot more.
Sorry, because I gotta say this. This is everything that you just said, Matthew, is just like, yes. The second part of what Manish asked too is like, what do we want to see more of in the industry? And the, like, to touch on what you're saying, the bravery that's required means that you have to stop generalizing and putting people into stereotypes and stop trying to assume that, that's what's happening there. It's the radio. The radio is what's playing. Yeah, the radio can be anything, but are we going to try to be real about this here? And not everything requires that kind of method. Not everything needs to be so deep. But if we can at least start getting people to stop using so many smoke and mirrors and just really speak from the heart, I guess, and try to really kind of find out. I don't want to generalize this whole genre of music and this whole genre of people, this whole language even, right? I need something Latin. Okay, what part of Latin America are you talking about? Or Spain. Like, I mean, you really do have so much unique characteristics to these different cultures. And when you start to respect them, and industries and studios, which I think are starting to do that, and I love to see that change, it just heightens the show, and you suddenly become so immersed in this, and you appreciate the culture, you appreciate the song, and that takes bravery. So, sorry, I had to say it.
That's a great segue, actually, because what you're talking about, this overgeneralization of cultures and skin color, and also this pigeonholing, these are all forms of microaggressions, right? So this would be a good time to jump on to Jessica's next question.
Okay, so what are some microaggressions BIPOC panelists have experienced, and or what the white panelists now realize they've committed or witnessed? Some examples of this are pigeonholing, broad cultural generalizations, and everything we've kind of just been talking about.
Man, oh boy, this is a fun one. This is a good question because it's a lot, you know, and I know it could easily turn into a bit of a rant, to be real. I think that, you know, I've always had conversations with my parents, you know, just like Matthew said, he's from Atlanta. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, born and raised. And my parents were born in like the 50s and grew up in Birmingham in the 60s. And, you know, if you've seen anything in American history, you know that it's not the easiest place to grow up. All of that is to say that a lot of experiences that they've had, I've seen as well. Different level, of course, but nonetheless, those things are still there. As it relates specifically to our industry, yes, just like the last question and like the topics that we have mentioned, I think that there is an underlying assumption that there should only be Black music used for Black things, Black projects, Black shows, unless we're working on a comedy and we'll use DMX, whatever. Like, I think that it really is a mentality that a lot of people aren't familiar with. And it can range from anything. Like, clearly, you know, there are books written now. Solange had a big song called Don't Touch My Hair. It can range from anything to, well, clearly I can't relate, but I understand where that's coming from because I know that there are certain things that are important in the culture that often get overlooked. Super case in point, you know, as a Black music supervisor, I understand that when we are working on projects that are going to require hip hop, I know that there's a natural assumption like, oh, hip hop, you got to know this one, right? But that's also because I've made mention of it. But I think that if that relationship wasn't there with me and my creative team or whoever I'm working with, then it becomes an assumption. And if you are assuming that we as Black music supervisors or composers, you know, hey, Matthew, you do hip hop, right? Like, yo, he probably can also do score and strings and anything that you would need. But you have to know that don't limit your, and this doesn't just go to Black people, but it definitely a lot for Black people, because I know that there are certain things that we are tied to stereotypically. You know, don't limit your team to that and give them a chance. You know, I know that, you know, I think we'll be making progress when we can get, you know, a Black music supervisor working on a George Washington biopic. You know, I don't know, because of like Hamilton or something. I don't know. But that's progress. It's not slowing it down and not being narrow-minded in the way that you approach your coworkers, your clients, everyone that you would end up working with.
Yeah, I think as an ally, for me, it's learning more about what microaggressions even are, to even learn, have I been doing this? Have I been saying things to people or taking actions and that I wasn't aware of? Maybe it was something I inherited from just growing up and listening to the adults around me speaking. And so on my journey growing up and learning and educating myself, I found it's very important to speak up when I see it happening in front of me. Especially I think in the workplace where we're taught that, just, I don't want to lose my job. I'm scared. It is very political. And I like to be a very loud person. And I do speak up, and I like to make somebody uncomfortable because I think it's important, especially in my situation. I am a white woman. I am not as at risk to speak up. And unfortunately, that is too common. And so I will take it upon myself to say, excuse me, because even just like a quick reaction will make whoever is in the wrong saying this aggressive thing that maybe they're not even aware of, they check themselves. So maybe I don't even have to say something obnoxious about it, but at least we're in a work setting and I can make them check themselves, or maybe they don't understand why this is an issue. And then we go into that conversation. But I have experienced it happening in front of me, and I hope I've done a well enough job, and I continue to grow and be a good ally to make all the people working around me more conscious and aware. And, the stereotypes are a huge issue. Anyone can do any job, so I think it's really important to stop and check yourself and people around you.
Yeah, I think as an ally, it's all about, this is a long-term dedication to this process and this movement, and it's just really about awareness and doing self-check-in, and also being really honest about things and not letting things slide and letting things go that you hear about and that you're aware of and privy to. And it's tough, but we put so much value on what music, our industry, what music does for storytelling. And these are our stories as people. This is real. This is not about, just the great projects we get to work on. And it's about, highlighting voices and really just bringing more into the conversation that is different, and it will only benefit everything that we do. So it's just, it's an ongoing, thing and process. I feel like I'm constantly now wanting to ask questions and tell me more about that experience. What can I do to learn more about this? And like everybody said, we're all, working really hard as entrepreneurs and, having businesses and companies and about providing opportunity to people that are looking for an in, just like I was one day when I was young and nobody listened to me. And, I'll be honest, people don't think sometimes that women can do the job, or that this, person or, their experience, but you don't know about their experience. And it's about us listening.
There was a time when I was on a spotting session and I was the only woman in the room. I was the youngest woman. I was the youngest person in the room. And I was I think, the only person of color in the room. And this is a long time ago. And one of the producers was busy, and I think he was just distracted, honestly, and he couldn't give the room his attention. He was on his phone a lot. And at one point, he was going to comment on the scene and give us thoughts. And I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt as an older person now. But he said, you know, they're there, I think it was in a restaurant. They're there, and they're like, they're doing their little woman thing. And no one said anything. Everyone just looked at me. And I had like the least power in the room, you know? So a way to kind of check myself, my younger self then, I wish I would have said, what do you mean? What do you mean? What is little woman thing? And have him realize how fucked up that is, how inappropriate that was, and should never, it's completely rude and disrespectful. And he wasn't even, I don't think, presence of mind to realize it. And that's the benefit of the doubt I'm giving him. But part of what I think I would do now, especially after everything we've all gone through in our lives, is that I would now say, I'm sorry, excuse me, what does that mean? Like I would now stop and just say, please clarify that. And sometimes maybe when we're young, we don't feel, you know, entitled to speak up for ourselves or stand up for ourselves. But hopefully that's part of the change that this industry will start to accept.
That's a good point. Quickly interject. I hear you. I think that there also isn't a fear attached to that. You know, like I know in many instances you feel like if I speak out, that's it. You might not get a chance, A, and B, you'll get blacklisted, you know, and you'll never to be heard from again. So I think that and this is why allyship is so important, guys. When you have multiple people addressing the same thing, so that when someone who might even be higher ranking makes an inflammatory statement or makes you feel, you know, uncomfortable or whatever in any kind of way, you can have your village saying, yeah, that was messed up. Yeah, you know, that was like, and it be from a lot of different sides at the same time. So yeah, I think that kind of goes back into allyship.
Yeah. And that guy is probably the certain kind of person who sees like PC culture as like the downfall of humanity. Like, why can't I say things that I used to be able to say? And it's, or more the thinking of like, nobody used to get offended by this sort of thing. Where is this coming from? And it's like, no, it's that people were always offended. It's just that power structures are changing. And people now across the spectrum have voices who maybe didn't have voices before, structurally, socially, politically, in numbers, in terms of education, empathy, etc. And so, yeah, the more of that, like, please bring it on. I want to hear you in that boardroom next time. No question.
Yeah, if I'm going to lose my job because I'm standing up for somebody who experienced something awful and rude and misogynist and racist, I'd be glad to lose my job and get blacklisted every time. Because I think that's the most important thing. And we need more people in the industry like that to just say, hey, not cool. That's not okay. That needs to stop. It's not, no, not again. You know, and explain it. And I worked at an event once and we did an entire weekend of live music. And out of all the bands playing, there were only 2 lead singers who were Black. Everyone else is just all white bands. And the question that was asked was, do you think it looks like we're trying too hard? And I don't honestly remember my instant reaction because filter is a problem. But I was very upset. I was like, okay, this is happening. All right. That's your concern here. Your concern isn't are there more people of color performing out of an entire weekend of X? There's only 2 people. What? And I'm like, this is a huge issue. And this is like kind of the economics that Manish was mentioning before. Like, I didn't have as much control, but I had my voice. So I did talk about it, and I talked about it a lot, and anyone who would listen to it, because I was just like shocked by like the hierarchy that was questioning the lineup. And I hope that that's happening more behind the scenes. Like, obviously that's not something that anyone who was involved knew about, but in the music space, we all kind of knew about it. And it was extremely upsetting, and it made me sick to my stomach that I had to be a part of it. But at the end of the day, I'm very glad that I pointed out what was happening, and that shouldn't be your question. Your question should flip it, you know, kind of a thing. So for me, I think it's important as an ally to always be loud. Be loud.
I love that specific example. That's really good. And I think it's also a good segue, because it's about how do you put allyship into action, especially, you know, I think it comes to with white privilege, with heterosexual privilege, and with male privilege. Janet shouldn't have been the one in that room to say something. You know, a white male should have said something. And so I think that's a good way to move this on to the next question, which Allison is asking. I think we've answered this, but we can rehash it and see if there's anything else we want to add to that.
This is a really good question in terms of sort of the next segue, which is how can a white supervisor or composer put their allyship into action when staffed on a project that tells BIPOC stories, i.e. hiring BIPOC coordinators or paying a music consultant out of pocket? And this question also pertains to non-Black POC telling Black stories and male-identifying folks telling women's stories. So I open it up to everyone here. Or I can jump in.
Go for it.
You know, I think, again, this is about action, and this is about, you know, I'm going to tell a story about really quickly about, yes, I mean, I think it's all about reaching out to the right sources and our trusted resources to find the things that we need, but also, you know, about, you know, mentorship and leadership in helping people within our community get opportunities. And yeah, it's all about, you know, internships and providing value within the internship process, and, you know, hiring coordinators and staff. And when you're on something and like really busy, but then also when you have some downtime too, it is to, you know, lead, help educate, and also just be there for people and be an ear. And I think, you know, one of the things too about allyship is, you know, I'm listening and I'm here to hear you and to help you, and putting it into action. And I think, you know, it's an ongoing marathon, and and I don't mean that in terms of it is just a skill that we need to constantly be utilizing at all times within our work. And you know, I mean, yeah, I'll absolutely pay for a coordinator or a you know, resources to help, because I value people's you know, perspective and work and what they can bring, and they know in kind that I will do the same. You know, one thing really quickly I wanted to share was I was working with a director on a pilot not too long ago, and you know, we kind of put a list of songs together, and what happened in this was I said, are these songs really reflective of this all of these characters that you have in like the age range and what it is? And I said, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that these songs are really reflective and these artists are really reflective as to what these characters are listening to. And I said, so let's go in and like get a bunch more different things in there. And every single one of the people that were involved in it they came back to it and they were like, yeah, you're right, because this is not representative of what is out there. And so, you know, we just have to talk to people in creative positions of power to say, look, there's room here and let's make room. And this is our time to make room. So I open it up to everybody here.
Yeah, I agree at this. I wanted to talk, but I'm sorry. I think it's important to bring folks onto the project that are more experienced in that space, and to point your colleagues to others. Something I get very frustrated with is that I am extremely busy and I would love to hire so many people and I can't. But I try to do as much as I can to show light creatively on specific artists. So for example, Them's Out Now Live, our Pride event, I presented to the team, I'm like, music is a huge part of the queer community. We should only use queer artists, only queer music. You know, depending on budget, what's possible, but I want to present that idea. I think it's really important. And I think we should focus that type of direction for everything that we do. If we can't bring people on, point our colleagues to somebody else to do the job. If it has to be my responsibility, that's how I'm going to approach everything that I do, is how can we make this a more welcoming space for everybody.
Great. I think it's kind of the theme of what we're talking about is the authenticity with diversity, and really giving the opportunity to someone, not just because it culturally makes sense, but because they're also qualified to do it. They are the sound. They are what is, this story or this theme. And theme actually is that the main title to Diary of a Future President was created by Emily Estefan, who's Gloria Estefan's daughter. And that's like royalty, right? And it's amazing that we had her be a part of it, but that she wanted to be a part of it. Like Diary of a Future President is a story about a woman who becomes a president of the United States, but it's through the point of view of her as a 12-year-old girl. And it's so beautiful and hopeful. And the fact that you had a strong and beautiful, hopeful young woman create this really beautiful and authentic main title was the right thing to do. And it sounds great. And it sounds very appropriate. So I hope that allyship and that empowerment just kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, to piggyback what Janet said, I think the thing that, Brian and I are from the South, so we have a lot of like sayings and old school, sayings. And my grandmother will always tell me, if you do good, you get good. And that'll be it. And it'll be that simple. You do good, you get good. And I've noticed I'm telling my 7-year-old or about to be 8-year-old son the same things, while he is on his Zoom meetings for school and we're in the other room. I want to remind him not to jump on, YouTube Kids or whatever he wants to jump on. You do good, you get good. I think in this industry, we have to go back to what Janet said, doing the right thing and giving real answers and real solutions. Of course, don't hire a Black person or a female because because they fit the job. Hire a Black person or female because it's the right thing to do for the project. one of the first, I never forget my first major television show. I did something and I was trying to do so much. I never forget the vice president of music called me and said, hey, just service the show and do what's right. Stop trying to do what you want to do. Stop trying to make it bigger than what it is. Just do what's right. So take out all that instruments and play piano. And that's why we hired you. We hired you because you're really good at playing piano, or we hired you because you can do this. So I think that just goes back to empathy, bravery, and always doing the right thing. Like, I think I said something to a friend of mine. We're so divided that we're confused between right and wrong. Like, we're just on it's a whole bunch of gray and a whole bunch of just, this is my opinion. And I like to say, is it right though? Like, it's not, would you teach your children this? Or, it's very, to me, it's very like ABC. It's very elementary to me. So if you do good, you get good. Just do the right thing. And even though, to piggyback off the last question, stepping out and saying something may get you blackballed or blacklisted, know that your blessings come from other places, not from man. So understand that if you do good, the universe, God, whatever you want to believe in, automatically knows what's going for you down the road. I use that as my example for a lot of things because I'm a true testimony of if you do good, you get good. And I think that's where we're at. We're missing, I think, in this world is just very simple, elementary conversations like, hey, this person fits it better. Let's hire this person. And I think that's what happens. I think if we do that, we'll be okay.
Listen, man, this dude came in here preaching on a Thursday. I mean, for real, like there's not much else that we can really say that hasn't already been said about that. Like, empathy is a mentality. It's an action, and consistency has to be in the formula. Allison, the last thing you said was make room. That's really it in a nutshell. If you know that you're working on something and like you don't want to do a story wrong, because, hey, man, we're in the age of Twitter. People will let you hear about it. And, we work in music, guys. We hear everybody's notes. You know what I mean? Whether we like them or not, we hear them, but they're not all bad. And when they are surrounding those types of things, that's because more often than not, they come from people who feel like they have constantly been, overlooked or surpassed or not represented, which is why, yes, representation matters, but it also matters from the standpoint of making room for the people who can correctly tell those stories. And Matthew's preaching, so cash app him or whatever, because good grief.
I'm just playing.
I just wanted to jump in here. So we're starting to run low on time. We do have one more question to ask, but I did want to ask this audience submitted question. It was submitted before the panel anonymously. It's interesting, so I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud to you guys. Why is licensing and sync race-based, i.e. Black artists, R&B, urban? Some recent briefs have stated a strong preference for Black artists, often high-profile and higher-paying spots. Colleagues we know in the sync business working directly with music supervisors who believe the request is coming from a good space shared that before BLM, this had never been the case. Though they are excited about getting higher pay for Black artists, this is troubling as it's an indicator that Black artists and songwriters have been marginalized for years. My personal perspective is race should never be a factor in pitching music as it limits opportunities, and it speaks volumes of how tone deaf the industry is in seeking out Black artists because BLM is trending. What do we think about that? Does anybody want to tackle that one?
That's a real one right there. I'm going to be quiet.
It's a lot of levels to that question. And
Yeah.
I almost want, can you paraphrase it a little bit? Yeah, because I want to make sure that it's a lot in there.
It went in a full circle, I know. It first is asking, it's saying that right now a lot more briefs are getting sent out specifically for Black artists.
Okay.
And it seems that this questioner is worried that this is maybe performative because it's only happening now with such abundance. And maybe that's the issue. I don't think this person is saying that putting the money into Black people's pockets to make up for all the injustice is a problem.
Question about reparations? Question?
Yes, I think it is.
Well, I mean, I think, to be honest, like let's keep it 100. I think it is right now. It's cool to be Black right now, and it's cool to be, you have to jump on the train that we're on right now. We're on this train of protesting our lives. We're at this panel because of. So I say, as minorities and people of color, you better run with this opportunity. I'm running with it. I'm not saying out of projects. I'm saying yes to everything when my agent calls me, or if I get a random email from someone saying, "Hey, I think that is where we're at," and I think it's cool to be Black, and let's be purposeful and say that, and not worry about when, where, why, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Let's really stay focused on. Yep, I probably need to hire a woman on this one. I need to hire a Black person on this one. And the person that gets hired, like myself or Janet or Brian, we can literally be like, yo, I'm going to run with this and then make room for my other people to come through the door. That's how this country was founded. It was founded by, hey, we're going to open the doors for others to come in because we were a certain way, so it's the same thing. So my goal is to always bring in other composers that are minorities, female, male, Black, Hispanic, whatever, come through because I'm doing it. I tell people all the time, I live in Atlanta, born and raised. I was born and raised here. And everybody said, why don't you move to LA? Because I'm from Atlanta. And I want people to know that there's an Atlanta composer. So my goal in life, one of my goals is, hey, you can come to Atlanta and get your music created and composed. I have Atlanta musicians. There are Atlanta rappers. I mean, we are Atlanta. So not to knock anyone else, but this is where we're at. So I think on my end, it is really cool to be Black. So yeah, hire Black folks. I think you need to hire Black folks. Hire Black folks.
Amen. That's the T-shirt. Hire Black folks. The end. But I think right quick. This goes back, I think, to our question about performative activism, which is cool. I understand that part of it. There are probably a lot more requests for it because there are more projects happening for it. Like every ad you're seeing, all these ads and all these commercials, all these shows, everyone wants to make a statement about that. So fortunately, that does open the door for a lot of Black artists to get these placements and to get heard, which I personally think is great. But like I said, I just hope that we know it's not performative if it becomes consistent. I hope that this isn't just a move like, oh, summertime, yeah, BLM. And then we're back to where we were and we have to do this all over again when people start tearing stuff up. So that really, I think, is the move. I think many people that I personally, how I feel and people that I've spoken to want to make sure that no, it's not performative. And in order for it to be that way is that we have to just make it consistent, regularly seek not just Black artists, but other marginalized groups. You know what I mean? Like all of them. Because they're out there. The pool is there. Clearly, we're in an era of the most content that we've ever seen before. You got places where you can throw stuff everywhere. So I don't think there's much of an excuse to not use certain music. It's just a matter of having the willingness to do it.
And I don't think, and forgive me if I'm misinterpreting that question, but I like to what Brian is saying and Matthew are saying, if needing music as representative of various cultures and backgrounds is not discriminating against white people. It's not discriminating against what we have had be top 40 or whatever on briefs for like common searches or general searches. It is hopefully also trying to shine a light on something that has been in the shadows just too long. And it's good and it's valuable. And here it is. So stop replaying the same songs. Like, let's open it up and be diverse and be open to listening. And sometimes that really just means opening yourself up to different cultures. I am a Mexican-American woman. I don't just work on Mexican-American projects. And I'm thankfully a professional music supervisor who works on various projects. Some of them have nothing to do with the music I was brought up with as a kid. It's just really interesting that when my phone rings and it is about something, then I have that sort of special kind of qualification, I guess, or maybe background. It doesn't make me a better music supervisor. It just makes me closer to it. You know, I guess the way you would cast an actor, it would be great if that actor had a source that they can really pull from. And, you know, I'm thankful for my upbringing, and I'm thankful that my skills as a music supervisor now allow me to, you know, hopefully help projects that can benefit from my upbringing.
Yeah, and I hope we start seeing more diverse pitches come through too. Like when I send a brief out, I would love to look at all the artists that are being sent to me for whatever spot I'm working on and see it be a whole bunch of different types of people in music. You know, hopefully, preferably the music I asked you to send me, but you know, like artistry wise, I hope that everyone's catalogs start becoming more diverse too. Even when you're talking about the majors, with all the top lines, I hope their top lines become more diverse about, you know, if they're leading the charge and what is on the radio. I would love to see more there too.
Absolutely. I think it also is challenging the notion of whiteness being the default. So let's take that move on to our last question from Matthew. I think you're muted.
There we go. All right. In your experiences, I like what you said, whiteness as default. That was deep. In your experiences, how can allies working in sync help the placement of BIPOC artists and composers? How can allies working in sync help in the placement? I mean, for what I'm hearing, I think we've answered this question several times.
Yes.
And I just feel like we just got to a little bit be more open and empathize and be brave and say, this is what we're going to do. I'm just real big on this purposeful thinking and purposeful do it for real. And I didn't think like this all the time, and it really, I didn't start thinking about, my color and my race. Of course, being in the South, we automatically feel that already, but I didn't really experience it until I had children. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And my 4-year-old right now, if we say she's black, she says, no, I'm brown. And I'm like, you're black. I'm brown, Daddy. And Mommy is yellow and Cooper is yellow. That's how she looks at our color. So we have to teach her. So which lets me know that racism is taught as well. And so I think what we have to start doing as a society is be more purposeful and empathetic and brave to say what we really need to say. So if you are a music supervisor or me as a composer and we're working on these projects, we have to be brave to say this is what we need to do to service this project and get it done. And that's across even in any other in the police force, in my wife's an educator, my wife's a teacher. It's having a white teacher teach a whole bunch of black kids. We got to change that up a little bit. I think it's just we have to understand each other's cultures and relate it and be purposeful and be brave about it. So I don't know. I just think the answer's been. I think I can open up to y'all, but I think we've already answered it several 100 times already.
Yeah, I think it's about embracing abundance. I mean, we're living in a space in time where there are more people making music than ever before, and have the ability and the means to make music and different kinds of music and have connections to folks. Like, there is more abundance in so many steps of this process than there's ever been. And so if music supervisors, if directors, if clients, if whoever are operating out of a space of scarcity and just utilizing the same resources again and again and again, telling the same story again and again and again, like, culture has moved on significantly past that, and those people aren't going to succeed. The more that this incredible opportunity of abundance of resources and backgrounds and abilities and connections and all of these sorts of things is embraced, and the more that I think we as music supervisors can lead the charge on that in our own given projects, like, that's the stuff that hits, that's the shit that connects. And I think we all know that, and we've been talking about this for like 2.5 hours, this very kind of exact principle, because I think to some degree we've all lived it in one way or another, and just want to see a world in an industry where that is more of the norm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We are hitting the 2-hour mark. So I wanted to thank you all so much for being here. If you guys all want to just like do like one sentence, like final sign off, word to the wise, that would be an awesome way to say goodbye, I think, to the attendees here. If anybody, it could be a word about music supervision, those who want to be music supervisors, or those who want to increase their allyship in their field. So let's just start with anybody who's willing, just your sign off.
I'll hop on right quick. I just want to say, never underestimate the power that you have, because it is needed. Your voice is needed. To all my people that are out there creating, keep creating and know that you are relevant, and whatever you have to say matters. Please keep doing that. And to the people who are in positions to bring some of those voices on, don't overlook them. Listen to them, and do your part to make sure that our allyship is consistent, and that we can keep doing whatever we can do to make the room tell as many stories as we possibly can.
I'm just going to piggyback right off of what Brian said, is that the underestimating part. So I never underestimate the value and the power of music in anything that I see on a screen or that I work on myself. And I think if we can just keep moving that forward and keep this conversation alive, so that we see this change and this progress, moving ahead, especially in our industry. And I'm just really glad to have been a part of this conversation today, and I'm here for everybody.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for sharing their stories, and for listening, because we just got to keep doing that. We just got to keep talking, and we got to keep listening. And so hopefully this is a platform that we can just keep it up. So I just want to thank everyone for sharing their stories.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think that my own sort of like awakening of understanding my own privilege, of understanding racial injustice, all those sorts of things, like, this was all awakened because of records. It was all awakened because of music. Like, the artists that I gravitate toward and listen to, like, these are so much of the way that I have understood the world and my own place in it. And that has led me down, a deeper understanding of the complexities and the ugliness of much of the world, and what people can do to rise up and be better, and reach higher, and all those sorts of things. So I am a believer in music. I'm a believer in this topic. And so I love that we were brought here today to discuss it, to learn from each other. I have a group of new friends, new mentors, new heroes. You guys are awesome. I've loved growing with all of you guys in the last couple of hours. You all inspire me. And Janet, I've been meaning to for like an hour. Can you in the chat put that band that you put in that 20 seconds of the scene? Like, we should all be supporting that band. So
Yes, I can.
thank you all.
Well, I want to thank you for inviting me again, and thank you for everyone who has participated, tuned into this Zoom meeting, because it shows that you care. It shows that you care about the diversity in our business and the kinds of projects that I think are resulting because of diversity and appreciation of one another. I think there's a lot of togetherness in this kind of meeting and in this kind of thinking. And, to echo what we've all said, I think the more we can continue that, the better we all are. So thank you very much. And I'm actually fine. I'm not emotional.
Awesome.
My turn. I guess also, thank you so much for having me be part of this discussion. It's been really great to see the feedback, even before it happened, of the excitement that everyone is really excited to talk about it in our community. And it makes me have faith that the awakening isn't performative and we are going to see more lasting change happen. And I'm very, very grateful to be part of the conversation as an ally. And I guess what I'd like to leave the group with is kind of going back to what Alec said earlier about the abundance in the industry. And I think to be a really, really good ally is to use that abundance. There's absolutely no reason that anyone should be pigeonholed at this point. We have the internet, like even right now, just mentorship and learning and connecting with kids and teenagers to teach them. Right now, we're all at home. This is the best time to connect with people. And I think I hope to see that abundance grow. And I hope everyone continues to learn and look at your music. Just look at what you're listening to right now. I think that's the first part to awaken yourself in, is to see what have you surrounded yourself in, and start asking yourself questions. Yeah, and thank you. Thank you for coming, everyone.
I think that's just Matthew left, yeah.
I'm the last one. Oh yeah, this was fun, man. This was dope. I had a good time doing this. I could do this every day. I guess I'll leave you all with, first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for everyone listening. I know I talk a lot and all that good stuff, but the one thing I want to leave before we head out is I need everyone to tell their testimony and tell their stories. That's really for others to empathize with us and empathize with each other, is that we know each other's stories. I think we lose track telling a story. I'm from Marietta, Georgia. And if I just say that and tell you my story, then you never know what can happen. Business is personal. You deal with people you like. So if I can tell you my story and you like me, you will empathize with me and you will work with me. It's like very simple. So I think for everybody out here, I see some comments and people want to put their music out and get on. Tell your story and let me figure out who you are. Let's like each other. Let's love each other, and let's all be allies for each other. And we're in the house too. Have fun. That's it.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for attending. Join the Guild and keep your eye out for other DEI initiatives that will be launching soon and through the fall. And thank you again all for coming, and for the panelists for spending their time speaking to us.
You guys, I want to say something. This is Joel, the president. I've been sitting in here back watching this thing, and I'm so just heartened by this conversation. And I really, really have to give a plug to Kelsey and, what it means to be a member of the Guild. We are an all-volunteer organization. We do this because we believe in what we do and telling stories with music and the people who are involved in it. And, when COVID hit, we were all kind of trying to figure out what to do. And people started coming up and raising their hands. And Kelsey was one of those and said, you should have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. And this is how you do it. And we said, awesome, you're in charge. And she has put this together. She's had 2 back-to-back fantastic, really tough subject panels, and really well handled, and just wonderful people conversing. And this is what we're all about. So I really want to encourage you guys to kind of step forward, raise your hand. And if you have something to say about how we could be doing this better, tell us, because we're making this shit up as we go. So, this is all of our guild. And so, be involved, raise your hand and tell us how we could be doing it better. And we'll try and do that. So thank you guys so much. Everybody on the panel has been fantastic. And I really learned a lot from it. So, and I miss you guys. So that's about it. So thanks, guys. Oh, yeah, and the 25th is our Emmys, our Emmy nominees. 4th year in a row that we've had a music supervisor trophy handed out. So tune in on the 25th for that. And then on the 28th is going to be the fun one where we're going to have music and, cheers each other. It's our town hall open to members and friends of the guild. So show up to that, hang out like this again. So that's it. Thanks, you guys. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.